Why does mental health stigma still exist? And how can we break it? Hi, and welcome to Mental Health Monday. I am so happy you're here. So, today we're going to talk about mental health stigma. It is something very close to my heart because it is woven into my life, the very fabric of my life. And I hate it. So we're going to talk about it because I hate it. And there's a lot of people that also hate it. So, and I know hate is a strong word, but stigma's not good. Stigma is just not good. But first, I want to remind you to check out Anna Lemind's book, The Power of Misfits, and also check out The Learning Mind. And if you like my content, please give it a like and share, comment if you want to, and by all means, subscribe. And you can find all the information about Anna Lemind's material and her website, The Learning Mind, in the description box below. But with that being said, let's get started on our topic. Honestly, I'd hoped it'd gotten much better by now, but mental health stigma still rages on, and we suffer in its aftermath. I speak as someone with mental illness, and I am not afraid to share anything about these illnesses, but that's not what this is about today. It's not about how many mental illnesses I have, what kind of mental illnesses I have. It's about what's affecting those things. I want to talk about stigmas, the disgrace, the disappointment that's projected toward those with mental disorders, and even the disgust we feel about ourselves sometimes as a result of this. You see, a stigma can go either way, but mostly it comes from the outside. So let's take a close look at where this started. Here's the history of mental health stigma as I know it. And it is probably imperfect because the research that I did on stigma, mental health stigma, is probably different, a little different today. There's probably some other things that I didn't find. It started in the Neolithic times when trephining was being used to cure mental illness. You see, people at that time thought evil spirits were responsible for these types of conditions. And some people still believe that today. And so they drilled holes in the skulls to release evil spirits. Yes, that's what trephining is. It's scary, huh? Now, the stigma is not like that now, and it has come a long way. However, it's been called the mark of the devil by some people, the punishment from immoral activity, and even a symptom of hysteria, which was considered a disease that only women had. It generally caused all sorts of symptoms, but they were all considered mentally deranged. Anyway, for the most part, psychiatrists have abandoned the term hysteria altogether, and that's a start. Now, professionals use facts in determining and differentiating mental illnesses. Stigma around mental health still exists for many reasons. Truth can be told, most of the people launching stigmatic statements, well, they're probably suffering from some mental or personality disorder themselves. It's most likely narcissistic disorder or something of that sort. But the point is, stigma still exists because people don't want to understand mental illness. It's easier for them to push it away, keep calling it a demon, or simply see this illness as a mode of attention seeking. A few reasons stigma is still here. Okay, no, for one, ignorance. Ignorance is huge. There's so much we don't know. And the word ignorance, it basically just means you don't know about certain things, and a lot of times you don't want to know about certain things. So you keep acting in that ignorance. I'm sorry, but some people are just uneducated about some things. I'm uneducated about many things. Hey, there are millions of things that I don't understand. I'm sure of it. And because I really want to stress that I'm not trying to be judgmental about anything, because I know how it feels to have that come back on me. But when it comes to someone who suffers from a mental illness, you should want to understand them in order to help. Sometimes it's the refusal to understand. Because if they understood, then they no longer have a reason to hold a grudge against sufferers' symptoms. And I'm not excusing symptoms and actions that are negative. We all have them. And some of them come from our mental disorders. I've seen it, and I sometimes live this stigma of mental illness. Then you have people who are just too lazy sometimes to do the proper research. They must do the research to understand these illnesses, to help break the stigma. That's just a pathetic reason to me. Sorry, but I generally don't hold back when I feel passionate about something. And this is one of them, because it's something I've dealt with my entire life. Gossiping about symptoms. Do you know how else stigmas are used? Sometimes friends talk about that one friend who has strange symptoms, the one who has unpredictable symptoms, which most mentally ill people do. I know that I can be perfectly fine until I have a panic attack. I can be okay until I have mania, which is now rare. It's a good thing. I save money because a lot of times mania makes you spend like crazy. And I can also be okay right before I go to bed and sleep all day, leaving everything disheveled, housework undone. Stigma grows when you talk about your friends and their odd and random behavior. Here's a good place to stop. Okay? Right here. Just don't judge it. Drop the gossip. It's childish anyway. Lies about danger. This is another type of stigma. Many of us with mental illness are called dangerous people. Ignorance causes other people to think we just get angry and suddenly become violent. Well, honestly, anybody could do that in the right condition, the right time, and the right environment, and so on. It's like when you compare deaths in airplanes to deaths in cars, where there's actually more deaths in cars than airplanes, to be honest. Most people know that, but it's still a scarier thought to be in an airplane accident. That's another subject. See, mental illness can make you go off on tangents too, and sometimes I do that. Refocusing. Many people refuse to get on an airplane because they're afraid they'll crash and die, but they are okay with jumping in cars all the time. Guess what? So just because it's a bit intimidating, seems scary, and operates in a different way, that doesn't mean it's any more dangerous than the ordinary things, the things that you see more often, the things that you experience more often. So using that example, yes, we get angry, we get upset, but it's usually because of something that, like stigma or misunderstandings and ordinary things that people get angry about. And while I will say there are some conditions that are a little more concerning than others in considering mental illness, and the medication that we take helps that and sometimes eliminates that. And honestly, when we're taking our proper medications, we can be calmer than people who profess to not having mental illnesses. So, blah. They also say we're helpless. I have lived with mental illness since I was a child. Officially diagnosed at the age of 18, actually. I have managed to survive for many decades, and at times without the help of others. That means completely independent. Although I sometimes suffer from dissociation, panic attacks, and triggered attacks, I can also use logic to do amazing things. I've raised 3 sons who are all gifted, higher level. One of them is in college right now. One is an adult, and the other is a senior in high school. So those with mental illness are not helpless and sometimes more than capable. All right, so these are the ways that stigma exists in the forms. So how do we break this filthy habit? And I'm sorry, but I see mental health stigma as a filthy habit. I see it as a lazy man's way of walking all over people at times. Not always, but sometimes. I see it as a choice to not understand in order to get ahead or to ignore us. I've been around people who utilize stigma to their advantage, and it's painful. I've tried to make friends with people I really shouldn't have. Hey, I was just trying to fit in for my kids, you know. But this is it. This type of behavior has to stop. People with mental illness are often made to feel very awkward, uncomfortable, hurt, and sad because of the stigma. So how do we do away with mental health stigma? Well, we start with ourselves. Yeah, I said that. We start with me. Yep. People with mental illnesses can also use stigma against others with mental health issues. We must see this in ourselves and stop. We can't beg and scream for change if we're not working on ourselves first. After that, we must keep writing, getting that information out there for those who need it. Keep talking. Keep standing up for ourselves. We must keep asking our friends, loved ones, and neighbors to read material like I'm talking about. Education on mental health will be the slow process of removing the stigma. And I don't know if we'll ever be able to completely remove it, but we can always push for change. We should keep making movies that approach these stigmas. Continue painting pictures that represent how we feel, giving us the opportunity to explain the stigmatic monsters that dwells within the colors of our paintings. That's what we need to do. All these things, whatever our passion in life is, what we like to do, we can weave that into it. And no, we cannot make everyone see the truth. But if they can't, we can get away from them. And we should. Mental health doesn't need a stigma to go along with its pain and confusion. What we need are love and understanding. So, please stand with me against stigma today. Talk to others. Help your loved ones to understand. And keep fighting. Keep standing up against this. If you see someone else being stigmatized, verbally abused, emotionally abused, if you see someone having their mental illness used against them, say something. Stand up for that person, because a lot of times they're afraid. Help others. Remind people to read about your illnesses. And you can't make them do it. Some people just bothered by it. And maybe that's something you need to reevaluate in your life. You know, do I want to be around someone who doesn't care enough to educate themselves about what I'm going through. And that's between you and those people. But I do want to say, continue to fight the stigma. Continue to fight the stigma every day. That's what we're going to do. And that's it. And I will see you next Monday. I wish you a good mental health Monday and the rest of the week. Sending love. Bye-bye.